Thank you so much for the members joining in. I need somebody to confirm that they can be able to hear me very well and if I'm very audible. Somebody can confirm. So you can just unmute and maybe speak or through the chat. And also for the voice, if it's down, you can still also go to the chat. And now we shall be starting shortly. Okay, as we wait for others to join. Right, somebody says can be able to hear me. Well, welcome everybody. So let's give them some few minutes, then we kickstart the session. Also from the chat, maybe you can be able to get in the chat, introduce yourself, tell me if you've been able to write something on C#.net, or if you have some experience with it, you can share it in the chat. So I'm trying to load some slides within some few minutes. They'll be showing from your side. All right, so we shall be beginning the session just in 3 minutes. So if you're able to see my slides, please you can be able to react because I've now shared some slides. Somebody can confirm with me if the slides is visible from your side. Somebody confirm. So we can respond using the chat, or you can just unmute and give me some feedback on it. Manuel Kibet, if you can hear me. Hello, can anyone hear me?
You are audible.
All right, thank you so much. So I think with the number that are joining the call, this would be the right moment to start the session. And before maybe I start, if you are members of your community are some members of your community who might be able to join the call or are interested to learn something on C#. So this is the high chance for you to share with them. I will first begin with the introduction of myself. My name is Brian Kimboy, and I hope the slides are visible to you. From the introduction, welcome to C#.NET series. So this is one of the topics that I've come to love to write some C# code, and I saw it that's good for me to as well as continue learning as we educate ourselves on the same, because I'm that person who, whenever I'm learning something new, I feel that my community should be able to understand something about it and also get to interact together as we learn. So this will be something that we're learning together. And before the meeting, I had prepared early so that we can be able to have some skills on the same. So my name is Brian Kemboy. I'm a student, software engineering student from Kirinyaga University. I'm also a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and also a software developer. So I've been from JavaScript world. So I've been writing more of Node.js, but of late I just realized that it's better for me to be to opt for writing some object-oriented programming languages. And if there's somebody who is new to programming, so don't feel that the things that we shall be learning today will be very complex, because what we shall be learning today will be from the basics. And as we dive into adding more concepts, and I'm very sure that at the end of it all, we are going to gain a lot from it. So this is one of the first episodes that we're having from the series. So each and every Wednesday, we shall be having a session. So I always try my best to create some content for each and every Wednesdays between 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it's going to be 1 hour's time to just come learn some C#, write some few codes, and I'm sure that at the end of the series we shall all get some of the concepts that the language comes in with. So you can be able to connect with me. So through the links that are provided on X, formerly Twitter. You can also connect with me through LinkedIn and also through my website. I'm going to jump right into the next slide, and I'm hopeful that the slides are also visible to you. So let me see some reactions if the slides are visible to you on the other side. Is Bernard is saying cannot be able to see my slides. Somebody confirm if so. I can see some thumbs up, meaning that the slides are visible. Maybe you can try and reconnect back to the call, because the slides are already running from your side. Okay, as we embark to learning more about C# programming or C#.net, first of all, C# is a programming language, and the question that will come to your side is, what even is programming, or why programming? Um, for somebody who is starting to write some code or want to understand something about computers, is that computers do not understand human language. You have to express yourself to a computer using the computer language. So this is a language that a computer is going to understand. And so there then came about writing some programming or whatever you call programming languages. The when you talk about the history of programming, first it started with writing of some assembly languages. Uh, when you talk about assembly languages, it's those languages that are, I can call it low-level languages, because a computer will always understand a 1 and a 0. That's either true or false. Um, so when the revolution started, I can say that there was like to define a way in which you can be able to talk to a computer. That's when you could be able to find people writing assembly languages. There was languages before assembly, and then we came to C programming, and other languages, Pascal. There are so many other programming languages available today. So we can talk of them as low-level programming language and high-level programming languages. That's how we can be able to categorize them. So writing something, a programming language that is low-level, it's kind of very difficult for you as a human. So, but writing something that is high-level programming languages, like for example, C sharp. So C sharp is part or among the C families. So we have famous programming languages, a language that is common to most students who are learning in universities, colleges. They are first introduced to C programming. So C programming always tends to be the fundamentals or the basic of programming, and then other languages now are then realized, like for example, Java, writing of C sharp. We have two new programming languages that came in, like Python, JavaScript. Nowadays, you can see people writing TypeScript. So there are so many languages, and this doesn't mean that you should be able to be conversant with all the languages. So it's good for you to learn one language and be proficient in it, be able to do something with it. So why programming in the first place? So programming will help you to solve problems. It enables you to, when you talk about programming, you first define a problem. So let's say, for instance, in a bank, people want to get some money. What can you do? Let's break down the system so that each and every process can undergo a system or process, so that, let's say, from step 1 to step 2, step 3. So this can be done using a programming language to set or to kind of come up with some steps of how to arrive at a solution. Uh, Secondly, it empowers some creativity. So, like for example, with programming languages, you can be able to create so many things. Like for example, the websites, the applications on your phone, games, and so many other things. It also enhances technology. So while you're doing your everyday work, um, you've interacted with smartphones, which is very common nowadays. That each and every person, the probability of having a smartphone is very high. We have smart homes. So many devices that we're using today uh, are enhanced through technology. We also have the high demand in the market. So, for instance, there are so many careers that you can be able to get or build because you're familiarized yourself with a programming language. That is, if there's so many companies, let's say Microsoft, they sometimes hire the software engineers so that they can be able to create solutions to different problems. We have QA and QE, that's quality assurance, can be able to do something. So whether you're a software developer, networking engineer, you are going to get some job because you are familiarized yourself with certain programming language. So welcome, and let's do some introduction to C sharp. C sharp can either be written using, you can see this picture or logo. So see this C sharp uh, logo, or how people always identify it like to be. But also C sharp can be written in full like C sharp. So be able to get used to this. So introduction to C sharp. What is C sharp? So C sharp is a simple and powerful object-oriented programming. language developed by Microsoft. So each and every programming language must be able to be developed by someone or a company or organization. So for in this case, it was developed by a company known as Microsoft. So it's when we talk about its object-oriented programming languages, we are going to talk more about what that means. We're going to talk about the pillars of object-oriented programming. We'll be able to write some code using those principles. And it's very important for you today to be able to write some code using the programming language or the OOP, the object-oriented programming. C# can also be used to create so many applications. Like for example, you can be able to create something on the web, like the web APIs. So this can be something that's new to you today. Web APIs is like writing the back end of the code using the ASP.NET core. Sometimes you can use it to write the .NET MAUI. We have you can be able to create some Windows applications. So like for instance, I'm very sure that most of the attendees that we have today in the call have like interacted with some Windows operating systems. So there are so many applications that you interact with, and most of them they are written using C#. There are some known as console apps, and that's what we shall be using to learn C#. These are called experimental applications. So let's say I want to write something on about the programming language to test my skills. So kind of like to test something if it works. And there's some small applications that use console apps. So it is used for tests and that. Yeah. C# can be written in any editor. So we shall be diving more about editors. Editors is where now you write the language. You know, you have to like type them, write them somewhere, and then you have to run them. You have to experiment that they're actually working. So the famous use editors for C# is Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. But we shall be using Visual Studio Code because this is an editor that is lightweight. To most machines can be able to operate well. It's not heavy like using Visual Studio. So these are two different editors, but for this case, we shall be using the Visual Studio Code. Let's talk about installation of C#. So if you want to like start writing C# today, what are you supposed to be having, or what should you have? And um, in this case, you have to have some tools. Like for instance, if you want to do some job, you have to have some specific tools. For instance, now like Visual Studio Code. So this is the editor that you'll have to you need to have so that you can be able to write them. You have the .NET SDK. So this one that you have to download in your system, and the last one is the C# Dev Toolkit. So I've also shared some resource links that will be able to get you to those sites. So I'm going to take you on a demo on how you can be able to install all these softwares. So I'm going to share my screen. So on the screen that I'm going to share is the second screen. So let me just give me a minute to share. Okay, somebody can also confirm from the other side that they can be able to see my screen. I've shared another screen. Okay, thank you so much, Gona. Thank you for joining the call. So I'm going to open a link. And so these are the resources that I'm going to share with you, especially on the WhatsApp group. So that's a WhatsApp group that we shall be using to communicate about or have some discussions about C#. Maybe if you're stuck somewhere, you have some discussions like how can you be able to achieve to a goal. So that's how we shall be able to communicate. So I have several links and let it open. Okay, and whenever I get like disconnected, please don't like leave the call. Sometimes I might have some issues with my internet, so in case my internet kinds of have some issues, I'm gonna rectify on it. Okay, it's taking some time to open. Okay, here they are. So I have the GitHub repo of the code which we shall be able to write today. And I'll also be sharing the same. So first of all, let's start with the .NET SDK. Second, we shall so this panel over here kind of disturbs me. Okay, let me just go on it. So the C#.NET or the .NET SDK. So when you talk about Kit, it helps you like to make use of the compilers. I'll be able to explain what's a compiler and other tools like built-in tools that comes with a let's say a language. So when you hear about C#, it's part of the .NET community. So and for that, I'm going to open another resource link on Visual Studio Code. So that's the editor that we shall be using. And the last one is I'm going to open the Visual or the C# documentation. It is very important that as we continue to learn, we also dive into the documentation so that we can be able to understand several things. So if you want to write some C#, you have to have some place to write them. So we shall be using the Visual Studio Code. You see, there's the download available for Windows, those using Linux or Unix systems, and there's one available for Mac. So these are very free, it's free software to use. So I'm going to share these links whenever you don't have the editor, you can be able to download. So I also want to access this here. So talking about the .NET SDK, so there's a lot of or so many supported versions that are available. Like for instance, the .NET 9 is one of the latest. You can be able to try these out, but the long-term support, you can see the new release of .NET 9. I've not tried that, but the one that has long-term support is .NET 8. So this is the one that you're gonna have to download so that you can be able to write some C#. So other versions are also available. You wanna have to write them, because sometimes you might find a client that has a software that was written in maybe .NET below .NET 6 or 4, .NET 5, I guess. So sometimes as the version of the SDK upgrades to new versions, there are so many new tools that it comes with it. So you can see we have the previous versions that were supported, like 3.5. I don't think if today, if somebody is given to write this, it was uh, okay, I'm very sorry. I think I lost my internet. Somebody confirm that I'm back. Just reconnect. Sorry for that. Am I back? Just lost my internet. Some 1 minute ago.
Yes, you are now back.
Yes,
Okay,
you
okay.
are.
Thank you so much. I was talking about the versions that are available for SDK. So these are the versions that are available. So let me take you through the documentation. So this is some good documentation that I was also able to use to learn. You can see when we go to I'm gonna go to C#. Yeah, it's available. So this way you can start, get a tour to C#, beginner guides, type system. It talks about so many fundamental things about C#. So I want to go to the next slide and see what was available. Then we can proceed, because I see time is far much spent on um, introducing the topic. So it's very good that the first session we shall be introducing more things, and then now as we move on with the next session, it will be much about code. So I'll be able to share these links to you so that you can be able to have them on your side. So I'm going to run some few slides and then we go now to the demo and do some C#. Almost 30 minutes have been spent. Okay, no problem. So I'm sharing the slides, just a minute. Oh, it's taking some time. So I think we should be able to run the slides so that we cannot be like waiting for slides to load each and every time. Okay, supposed not to be on this slide. So the next thing that we'll be having now is the writing of C#, Hello World. So that's the first program that we shall be writing. So I think my slides are back. Can react with the thumbs up. Then Hello World is one of the common things that people always try to test if the everything are well set up from your side. So going to the next slide, we shall be able to talk about namespaces. And maybe just to touch on it before we go and see on the editor, namespaces is one way in how you can be able to organize your classes, because I told you C# is an object-oriented programming languages, and other types that comes with it. So it will be able to prevent a lot of conflicts whenever we have, let's say, some classes which are the same. Like for instance, can people have two classes of person, but they refer to different namespaces? We shall be able to also talk about keywords in C#. So when you talk about keywords, these are reserved words that you cannot be able to use them as an identifier. We shall also be talking about what are identifiers, like for example, variables and classes, names of, I think class names, and we cannot be able like to initialize something using the keywords. So these are the things that we should be able to touch on. And yes, okay. Let me run through the slides, then go to the demo. So the next thing is classes and objects. Shall be able to talk about what is a class, what are objects. So when you talk about a class, it's a kind of a blueprint. It defines the structure of an object. So like for instance, when you're writing everything in C#, everything tends to become an object. So what's an object? It's like an instance of that class. So the pillars that I was talking about is some of like inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, and these are the things that you shall be able to learn. Let's say object-oriented programming and class and objects, it will have its own class itself because it's very wide. So we are also going to talk about variables in C#. So variables is like a naming store, or a store that you have to save your data so that you can be able to access or reference them through the program. So we shall also see the types of variables, like local variables, the static variables, constants, read-only variables. So there are different kinds of them. Then later on, yeah, I think with that, let's go to the demo and start practicing and writing some C#. So I'll be now sharing my Visual Studio Code, and I hope it's going to be fast. So I'm going to share my first screen. So with this, I'm going to just get a new folder for what we are going to be doing today. So I'm going to the Visual. This is some problems like installing these things. You can reach out to me, but the documentation that I've shared is going to guide you step by step on the way on how you can be able to install the SDK, install like all those tools that are required, the Visual Studio Code, the .NET SDK. So I'm going to show you how you're going to download the C# Dev Toolkit. So I hope my Visual Studio Code is visible from your side. So I'm going to now go to extensions. So on your Visual Studio Code, you're going to access this part known as extensions. So you have to like click on extensions. Wait for it to respond. I don't know why it's taking some time. So here are the extensions that I have in my Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna be able to search, let's say for C#, just go there, search for an extension on a C# dev toolkit. Let it load. I think we have so many of them. It is the C# dev toolkit. So once you've installed your .NET, so it's not compulsory that you have C# dev kit, but one thing that it helps you to do is that you can be able to write some C# with some IntelliSense. So it comes with support for Visual Studio Code, and you can be able to read like it comes with some solution explorers. So this kind of a tool that's going to help you. So it installs some of the things like .NET. It installs some tools that are required for you to run on .NET. So like for instance, if you're a JavaScript developer, you are most commonly that you used Node.js. Node.js is the one that's powering you to write some JavaScript for. Now for C#, you're going to be powered by using the .NET. So I'm going to create some of a solution. So first of all, like how do you create a project on C#? So for instance, we are just creating things from folders to creating files and then proceeding from there. So for this, there are several ways of how you can be able to achieve that. First of all, I think there's a way you can be able to achieve that on the terminal, but I think the terminal will just come later on. I'm going to first open is it called the Explorer or this kind of search? What do you call it? So you're going to do some control, if you're using Windows, Control, Shift, and P. So you're going to have so many options from your machine. And maybe before I just continue, let me first show like after installing the
It's
.NET,
called the command panel.
somebody is communicating.
Yes, I'm
Josiah,
saying it's called the command
the
palette.
command, yeah, the command palette. Thank you so much.
Command palette.
So yes, thank you. All right, so I'm going first to start with the terminal. To access the terminal, this using the graphical user interface, can click on these three dots, then access terminal, then click on new terminal. So there's always like another way to access the terminal, but for this, I'm going to access using the graphical user interface. We want to first check if .NET is installed in our system. You can also use your command or the CMD command prompt and like open your command prompt to confirm the same. So they all function the same, but Visual Studio has the terminal also inbuilt in it so that you can be able to use it at your comfort. I think my terminal is ready. So if you're not used to the terminal, I know it's kind of like scary to use a terminal for the first time, but for us who we are used to it, it's very easy for you to like write some few commands and then execute them. So for this, you'll write a command known as, and let me just expand so that can be visible to almost everybody. I think at that point it's visible. You can just respond using your thumbs up if it's visible to your side. But it's too, the sponsor is so small. I think it's okay. So you can write .NET, then new. Okay, to check the version, you use the first word is .NET. So you don't write the dot but yourself, but you write it in words, the .NET version. So dash version. So this will check on the version of .NET that you're using. You see, I'm using .NET 8. That's the version that we saw. So there are so many things that .NET has. You can see .NET. I think it is list. Is it dash dash list? Okay, I think that command is not visible. Let me just first .NET, or is it list without the dashes? Okay, I think that command is not available on this side. I'm going to access that using this terminal over the Visual Studio Code. So I think it's ready. So you can access it using .NET. Let me say first let me say .NET itself without anything. Okay. Next thing, to see some more info, so you can say .NET .NET. So what if somebody says .NET new? What are we expecting? Okay, yeah, it comes up with this kind of list. So it tells you what .NET comes with. First of all, we have something known as Blazor. This help you to write some front-end code. When you talk about class libraries that it comes with it, so here is the console app that we shall be using to write the programs. So when I told you that in .NET it supports C#, so we have other languages known as the F# and the VB. We have the Windows forms. So this is used to write the Windows applications and the WPF applications. So this is what comes with .NET. So let's go back to the palette. I said it's Control, Shift, and then P. So if you want to create a project in .NET, first of all, you have to define, you see, the first thing that you come here is .NET or new project, but because I recently used it, you see it on the first place. So for you, it might not be in the first place. So you have to come and search it like the .NET new project and then proceed with that. So it's always available for you to search when you're starting up. So Control Shift P. So setting up, there are different ways of how to set up. So we're going to use the graphical user interface, and then next we shall be able to set up the project using the terminal. I think with that we shall be able to proceed and write some few lines of code. So I think this kind of takes a very long time. So that's why I always prefer to use the terminal. Or did it not? Did I not select this? Okay, I think everything today is kind of very slow. Let me close some of the programs that I have. Should I reload the window? I wondered why this is taking some time. This will then now force me to start using the terminal because it's not responding to the command. You know, should I reload the window? Am I too fast on this? Okay, let's first go on with the terminal, and then we shall later go on later on. I will later show you how can you create a project using the file, because I think it's taking some time. So let me just go with the terminal. I'm going to go with that terminal that we created. I'm going to clear all of this. Now I want to create a project using .NET. Okay. So to create a console application, you just have to write dot let's say let me say hello world. So and then to just visit the hello world, you have to list it ls cd to hello world. Okay, I think it's now just loaded the panel. Panel and selected new project. So you have to select whether you have to select the console app. So there are so many things that comes with .NET. So for this, we're going to select the console apps. Then you're told to give a name. So for this, I'm just going to name it Hello because I just create a folder known as Hello World. Select that, and I want it to be available in the same directory that we have, that is the series directory. Then create the project, and then let's just wait for .NET to create it. So you see this a folder known as hello over there. So let me just delete this one that we created manually. So let me delete it. So yeah, let me move this to the recycle bin so that you can be able to expand and see whatever it comes with C sharp, like what are the things that it comes with. So for this, there's some setup or the files that you always find on it. So like for example, we have the program.cs file. So let me start by explaining what is available in this file. So you can see the only thing that's available in this file is console.writeline hello world. So this is the first program that you'll always find on when you create a new project using C sharp. And to run a program, you can I think I'm back. So to run a program, so you'll say .NET run. It's a very simple thing. So you just say .NET run. So first of all, I must make sure that I'm in that directory. So ls, you will be able to see like all the folders that you have. So I'm supposed to get into hello. So I say change directory cd to hello. So I'm the hello file. So and then just run .NET run. So this the running of a C# application has some processes or it goes through some process. First, it builds your project. So building a project means that you're going to create a new file over here known as bin. So building is like having this project that is human readable. So you can see this folder here or folder known as bin. There's some folder added on the object folder. So building an application means that you are converting this console.writeline into an assembly language so that it can be a .exe file. I think this one, some of the things that you'll be able to interact with, a .exe file is executable so that you can be able to run. So that's the process that happens. And let me explore like the things that are available over here. So we have the hello.solution over here. We just lower this down. Hello.solution is going to manage everything that's going to all the projects that are going to be available in the series folder. So like this, the XML files is going to manage everything like the metadata. So we have this hello.cs project. So this is only going to manage the project that we're having that is available in the hello folder. Like for instance, you see the project is using an SDK from Microsoft. The project itself is enclosed. You see, it's going to output something in executable file that is in the bin folder. That's going to use is .NET 8. That's the one that we're using. When we talk about implicit usings, this can be something new to you, but don't worry much about this because it doesn't even concern like fundamental things. When we say implicit using, it means that you just don't use the top level statements. So in the past, C sharp, when you're writing some C sharp code, you had to write so many lines of code. So for instance, let me just pick up those here, or let me just write them. So a hello program is going to be to write some things like a very long program, like using something on a system. Let me write them and then explain. Then you had like to give some the namespace. I'm going to explain now the namespace in this scenario. So you're going to type namespace. So you see that those IntelliSense, it comes with the SDK. So the namespace, so you can see the namespace we have is hello. So it's just going to make sure that my code or hello is kind of like unique with others. And then now you have now to write, like now you have to write your class. So everything you need to say class and then program. So when you talk about class, program is going to be the file itself that's going to run out of the main function. So you have to write something like static. Static means that you cannot be able to initialize the same thing. Void main. So you can just do that without those others. So static void main. Then over here, just write the console dot write line. So this like how you could be able to write some C# using the top level statements. So when I mean top level statements, you see this like a Java programming language. So here to write all of this so that you can also only run this code known as hello world. From my terminal, you could see when you write when you run the code using the .NET run, you are able to see like hello world being displayed over there. So but the older versions of C# before .NET 8, you had like write everything like this. So I'm going to pick up from here and also talk about what are namespaces, what are the things that you're seeing over here. So first of all, let me just hover around at the console. So you could see whatever it comes. Let me just zoom. I think it's on its maximum. So it's like it represents the standard output. So when you want to show something to the user, you use the console. And where does this console comes from? In the past, before C# like came to different versions, you could be able to write like system dot console dot write line hello world. But now with the new versions of C#, it just allows you to write console dot write line C#. So system is a namespace for console so that it can be able to use them. So with the C# like coming to newer versions, you had to like give the using statement over there, and then the console will be able to use it by default. So even without providing this, let me comment it. So when I comment a code, it means that it's not going to be seen by the compiler. The compiler is the one that is going to convert all this code from human readable to machine readable. So like for instance, console is a class available in the system namespace. So I told you like a namespace is something that like organizes your C# code. So when we talk about write line itself is a method. So we're going to talk about methods. Methods is like a behavior of a class. So console has different methods. So but write line is one of the methods. And what does this do? It writes some specific string values, uh, and it's going to terminate in a new line. So we have dot write line and then some string hello world. So this is like how the programs work. So since I think we spend more time here, I'm going to also to explain some of the files. So I told you that the object and the bin. So for example, the object is the one that has all the configurations for .NET to build up the bin, the bin. So that's it. So let me embark to something else so that you can be able to like discover many things on C#. So for the second thing, I'm going to talk more about namespaces. So I'm going to talk about namespaces. So I'm going to show you another way to create a project. So you could see that after creating this hello program, there's something that appeared over down here or there. It's called the Solution Explorer. This is going to help us manage our projects. So it's important that you expand it. You see, we only have the hello solution on the Explorer. If you want to create a project using the Solution Explorer, just hover on the main folder. Over here, there's a plus button. It says new project. Just click it. You see, it opens the template. So you want to create .NET code? No, I want to create a console app. I want to name it C# namespaces. Let me just call it name spaces. Then click enter. on the default directory, create a project. You could see over here, we have some new project known as namespaces. It has everything that's hello head, and now we can just jump over here and then learn some of things on the namespaces. All right. Okay, by mistake, I've just been removed from the call. I don't know who is doing that work. I've just been removed from the call, yet I'm the organizer. Okay, no problem. But whoever is doing something like that, please let's, or maybe it's some or a problem from my end. So I think I'm back. I just found myself that I was out of the call and I had to like rejoin again. So I'm sorry for the interruptions once again. So am I back to the call? Maybe somebody can respond. Some thumbs up.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I'm sorry for whatever happened. I just found myself I'm out of the call. Okay. So we wanted to talk about something on namespaces. So I'm going to give like an example of a code of namespace. So I'm just going to write the code from the keyword. So I'm going to use the word keyword so that when you talk about keywords in C Sharp, you're going to understand like what's a keyword. So we say like a keyword is a word that cannot be used as a variable or you cannot use in your own namings. So it comes with C Sharp or the .NET itself. So it understands, the compiler understands what's a keyword. So for instance, I can say we have KYU namespace, namespace. So KYU namespace is kind of organizing like whatever it's going to contain, let's say the classes that will be contained in the KYU namespace. So we're going to name some of the things very quick program. And then say now I want to write something like a class. Can we first define a class and say that I have a class known as a student. So KYU stands for Kirinyaga University. So I'm going to say a class name student. And so there's so many conventions in C Sharp. For instance, you could see how I'm writing a class. So a class is kind of like a blueprint of like defining some of the things a student can do or what a student can have. A student can have a name, age, uh, grades, and so many things. And these are some conventions in C Sharp. I can be able to write student in small s at the beginning, but you see the intelligence saying that naming rule violation. This must begin with an uppercase character. So for this, I'm supposed to write student beginning with the capital S and then proceed from this point. So there's somebody who is unmuted. So I'll explain what that means. Also study. So it's a method, and what will void do? It will do some console dot. And you see, whenever I type dot, you kind of like get this intelligence. The most used one is right line, and say maybe let me give some strings and say I'm a student in KU namespace. I'm a student in KYU namespace. So every C# code that you write must end in a semicolon like this one. This shows that you have the code or your code terminates at this point. So the first thing is writing this. Let me first explain what this is. This is an identifier. The public means that this method is going to be available to any part of the program. Void means that it's not going to return anything. So it's just going to console this, but the method itself is not going to return anything. And also the naming convention. Study, you cannot write study in small letters. When I write this and then hover, you see there's some naming violation. So C# expects you to write this with this convention of like study, starting with a capital letter, and then you enclose with these brackets. So this is like how you create a method. So when you talk about a class or a class of students, now what does a student do? As a student studies, and then you have to print like, okay, I'm studying in KYU namespace. Also, you can have another namespace just below this. Just come and say namespace. And we can have a namespace like UON, the University of Nairobi, namespace. Okay. So KYU namespace. So we can say class, also students. So this will be a student from University of Nairobi. So what's the student in University of Nairobi also is going to study. So you can say public void study. So it's a method. So also the student in that school is going to like console.write line, I'm a student in UON namespace. So we have two same methods. You could see this method is known as study and also have another namespace known as study. So in a real world, it could be very hard for me to differentiate between them. Or for instance, we have a class known as students who is available in your KYU namespace, another student class available in UON. So for me to be able to like differentiate between the two, I'm going to place them in a namespace. So this namespace is going to cover for KYU, this namespace is going to cover for UON. So for me now, I can be able to write the real program or the entry of the program. So I'm going to minimize this and now write some code, like say now class program. So this is where the main program of the code begins. So for this, I'm now going to like now write static. So when we're talking about object-oriented programming, we shall be talking about static classes or a class that cannot be initialized. So static void means does not return anything. Main means that this is the main part of the program or where the program will start running from. So from this point, we have to like to initialize the the class, but because we have two classes that are of the same, I cannot say students dot something or continue. So I'm going to like use the namespace. Let's say KYU namespace dot. You see, it comes with a student. The IntelliSense is very active, so it's a student. Uh, so you have to name it. There's something known as a variable. So you're going to talk about variables. So KYU. Let's maybe put in small letters KYU student. So I'm going to initialize it with new kyu.student and then initializing that class. So now to access the KYU student, now it's kind of like now the KYU namespace is this namespace at the top, not student, use namespace as student. I'm going to like create an instance. It's like now I'm creating this box over here. So that's why I'm saying KYU student is equal to new KYU namespace dot student. And you see at the end of it, I'm kind of invoking. So this is known as invocation. It's like calling it and making it available at the KYU student. So at this point, I'm going to kind of say KYU student dot, you see it has so many things, equals to maybe has code, keep type, study is the one that we created ourselves. Then you have to call it like that. So this is how you're going to define it. So I'm going also to talk about the other one. Accessing the other one is um UN student, I think that's so correct. Then UN student dot study. So this like the importance of a namespace. First one, you'll be able to create a namespace talking of KYU, another one talking about UON. And you can see using the program, you can be able to like differentiate between the two. So let me run this code. So to run the code, I have to go back to my directory. So I have to go back to, or I could just open this in the terminal. I think I'm back. So then ls okay, cd to namespaces. Now I'm inside the namespaces folder. So I see time is almost much spent. So just give me some few 15 minutes to be done with some of the concepts for today. Then when we meet next week, we'll be able to uncover so many other concepts. So to run this program, I'm just going to say .net run. Let's run the program and see whatever happens. So running the program, that's the namespaces over here. So the bin folder has been created. So it means that been changed to assembly. Let's just give it some time. I think it's not like quick in doing this because I have some other tabs or open from my application. The next thing that we're going to talk about is having some small understandings on classes and objects. So I think we won't be able to cover variables today because of time. So I'm going to just like pick up and cover something on classes and objects. But before that, I have to wait for this execute. I don't know why it's kind of overwhelming. However, there's different ways of this. I can be able to like run the program using this debug button. But this one now takes more time because you have like to run and then debug everything. Yeah. After a very long wait, you can see I'm a student in KYU namespace, and the second one I'm a student in your one namespace. So uh this one, the first one is going to execute for name KYU namespace. The second one is going to execute for UON. And it's a method. When I say dot study, it's going to execute whatever is available on the study method. So let me cover the last thing or last concept today. The last concept today will be on classes. So I'm going to create another project. So you can still create using the command palette or just create using the terminal. But let me just create using this because it's much fast. Just go for the console app and name it class and objects. So default directory, create a project. So it's kind of very simple to manage them, especially when you have the Solution Explorer. So this is also same for anyone who is going to use Visual Studio. That's the editor that is heavyweight. It has all of this. Okay, so the project is over here. So I want to introduce classes and objects because you could see that when we were writing something on namespaces, we had like to touch on some things on classes, and it's not friendly, especially if you have never had some concepts on object-oriented programming. So I'm just going to like have some small intro into it, say that next time when we meet, we're going to talk about um, variables and then talk about the types that are available in C Sharp. So C Sharp is said to be a strictly or a type language that you have to type all the types and everything. So today, let me just cover something on classes. This will introduce you into the world of object-oriented programming. So, and for that, I'm going to kind of write something almost similar, but now today I'm going to create a namespace, create a car, and what a car always does, then use some methods and bring some of the concepts. So first, I'm going to write a namespace. It is very common that you'll always be seeing namespaces. So I'll name this car namespace. So car namespace. So this car namespace will now be containing any classes or any other functional that a car will always be having. So for that, now I'll be able to like to create a class. So I can say public class car. Always remember to use capital letters, maintain the convention. So yes, your code will not break, but it's good to use good practices in that. So this block of code, like for example, if I say a class, it will be in between these curly braces. So I'm just going to make some properties of a car. So a car can be of certain make, let's say it's a Corolla, it's a Honda. So different, it has also some models, it has some years of creation. So those things that a car has, let's say, let's call them properties, or you can call them attributes. So for like for a student has so many things like a name, year of study, the courses, all of those are like a properties that a student always has, and you can represent a student in a class. But for today, I'm going to create a class. Uh, so this should be a class known as a car. So for this, I'm going to say, let me create some properties. String. The first one is the make of the car, and this that you can be able to use something known as a constructor. So for this, allow me to like type everything and then I'll be able to explain.
Hi, Brian.
So the
Excuse me.
second one is public string. So when talk about a string is a combination of characters. Like A is a character, B is a character, but when you combine them, it's a string. So we shall talk about that when we get into variables and a set. And next thing is the year. So it's the public string, and then year. So a year will have yes. Is somebody speaking? Can you be able to hear me? Hello. You can just unmute and then proceed. Okay. But whenever you have a question, please you can reach out on the chat maybe. Or someone who was speaking. It. God, I'm breaking also. Can't be able to hear me well. I'm going to confirm because I think from my side, my internet is still intact. If I'm audible enough.
Yeah, now you're audible. There's a time you are really breaking.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. Okay, for if anything that maybe you never had is that I've created some namespaces. I've created a class known as a car. I'm given some properties, like a car has a make, model, and a year, and it has some getters and some setters. So I'm going to introduce something known as a constructor. So I'm going also to explain what a constructor is going to do. So constructors are used to initialize the properties of a car. That's why we have these getters and setters. So they're kind of like methods. So like what is going to ensure that the model has a value, the year has a value. So you're going to have a constructor. So public. So and a constructor is always having a name of that class because the class that we're having is the car. So you're going to say car would have a, let's say a string known as has a variable, let's say name, string of model. Okay, I think I could just give the year as an integer. It's always better maybe to leave that as an integer, and then that's the year. So for the constructor, we are going to like initialize all this. So for instance, make is equals to, and if this is confusing, just give me a minute. I'm going to explain whatever is happening. So make is a make model, the model, and then the year is the year. Okay, let me fix some of these errors. So instead of using semicolons here, it's going to be some commas. So this is a constructor. A constructor is kind of like we have a make over here or a model property or a year property. But now I want that thing that, for instance, that will make this that will make hey, I'm using kind of the same words. Let me say now, let me use model because I'm conflicting myself. That will then allow model, let's say, to be equal to, let's say it's a Civic from Honda. So if you want to like kind of like set this model to have some values, you're going to use a constructor. And for this case, you see this is a difference. It's a this is starts with a small letter and this starts from a capital letter. So that's why I'm saying whatever value that a user gives me, that's make over here from the constructor, I'm going to assign it to this make over at the top. Same with the model. The model is small letters. I'm going to assign it the model with the capital letters. So I'm using the set property. The year is going to set to the year from the properties with a capital letter. So that's kind of like what a constructor does. So a class can also have methods. So some of the methods that are available for For this, you can say a car can display some information. So you can say public void display info. So let's display some information about this car. So you can say just console dot write line. So there are ways of how you can write it. So today I'm going to show you using the string interpolation, but sometimes you can be able to just access them using a normal string. But once we talk about strings, I'll be able to explain like the traditional way of writing strings and the new way of writing strings. So writing this, I'm going to access the dollar sign, access that. So I'm going to say the make will be, so let me just kind of accept all of this. So whenever I want to access the make variable, I'm going to access it using these curly braces. The model, I'm going to access it using these curly braces. And the year that has been set, I'm going to access it using this year variable with enclosed curly braces. A car can be able to start. Another method of starting a car, you say public, maybe void, and then start. So this is one of the method that a car can have. So you can say console dot, let's say a car has started. Another thing that you can talk about a class is that a car can stop. So like for instance, this will be public, available to all other classes, void, stop. So a car has stopped. That's one of the things that we're going to print whenever this is happening. So the things that we've learned is we have a properties, a car has some properties. You have to use the constructor to kind of set them, the properties. A car class has some methods. You want to display information about certain car. A car can start, a car can stop. So if you wanna like now see something happening on the console when you run the program, so I'm going to start my code over here. You can write a class known as program. So and something I want to emphasize is this namespace, you see that it proceeds and it's going to close everything. So it's kind of I'm using one namespace for this, not like the previous one whereby I like had two namespaces for different programs. So for this, the main program will start here. So we'll have the static void main. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, what does the main has? First of all, we have to create instance or create an object or create, let's say, instance of a car class. So creating an instance of a class is kind of like creating something like a copy of something. So I'm going to say like the car, that's the class I have. You can see it has some buckets in it. It means that it has something. So car, I can say my car is equals to the new, and you see new car. Now I have to set all these values at this point. I can say the first vehicle that I'm going to have, the first car is going to have a name, or the make is the Toyota. The second one was model. The model is going to be a string of let's say it's going to name it Corolla, and then the year that it was created, let's say 2019. And I'm going to like access the properties of that car, or access properties. So to access the properties that comes with it. So in this case, it seems like now I've created, so it cannot be confusing to somebody. So let's say this car from this point. So it's kind of like I've created a car that has this make, or this make has this. This model of type string is Corolla, and the year of that car is this one. So, okay, now let me proceed to access some of the properties that we have. The properties that we set, you can see my car, dot, sorry, it was out of context. So my car here, my car dot, you'll see all these properties that are available. So I can say my car dot, I want to display information about the car, and then just um, use this to invoke that method to work. Second one, I'm going to say my car dot. You see, we have the start, the stop. So I'm going to start the car. And then lastly, I'm going to say my car dot. I'm going to stop the car at this point. And everything terminates with some colons, because if you don't have this at the end, you're going to have some issues with the compiler. Or even forgetting it sometimes, you're going to be rectified. You see, it expects some end statements over here. So at this point, I think I have covered most everything. So, and this class, maybe I've created one copy of the car. I can just come over here down and say I want to create another car. Let's say car. Let's say another car is equals to. So it's going to be the new names. This can be uh, the model of Civic. Then the year of manufacturing can be 2021 or 2020. Then close it over there. So I've created another instance of the car. So you can see one of the importance of having a class. You see, I can create a car of this kind of properties, and you can see I have another car of this kind of properties. At this point, I just want to display information and not like access also all these other properties, because it will be repeating myself. So for this, I'm going to run the code, explain whatever I've done, and then we can call it a session over there. So .NET run. I think I'm on namespace. I'm sorry. So I have to go back, cd back, ls. So I have certain classes, cd to class and objects. So clear. So I'm going to run dot net run at this point. So running the code will build on some assembly code or executable code, and then we get some displays of whatever happened. So, and this like an introduction to this. So you could see the output. So the first one, it gives us it's a type of Toyota. The model is Corolla. And the last thing that you can see is the year is 2019. The car started, the car stopped. So for another car that we created, another instance that we created, the model is Honda, a Civic, and then the year is 2020. So this kind of an introduction of C# programming that we wanted to just get started with. And I'm really, I think we've really like understood some of things that are very fundamental for you when you're starting with C#. So next week when we meet, we're going to talk about variables and types. And before maybe we can break, there's something that I wanted to share about these sessions that we shall be having. So allow me just a minute to share. It's the C# um, certification that I want that as we continue with this series, we get ourselves like trying to learn these things as we proceed. Let's say this week, just go and learn whatever we've learned as you prepare yourself for a certification. So I have a certification in C# Foundations. This is a partnership between Microsoft and FreeCodeCamp. It is very important for you as well as to have some certification in something. So as we do or learn something on this series, you can be able to equip yourself with one certificate at this. For that, it's going to be certification. So I'm going to share this document because it has a lot of resources that it would be good for us to kind of like cover it. So I'm going to share the links. It has the repo of all the code that we've written today. I'm also going to share the link to the recording for anyone who maybe wants to do some recap, and also the links to download the softwares that you'll need. So over here, you can see some C# foundations with Microsoft. These are a very large course, but it won't take like 3 weeks. When you like doing some serious work, you're going to find yourself you have the certification. So I did this certification early this year. I think it's not quite hard. So just I'm going to share the link. You're going to expand the course. You see, there's some kind of modules for you to do, and you'll be able to do some hands-on experience on it, so installing and configuring Visual Studio Code. So it's kind of we have some of them, and then going to do some foundation of exams. So we shall be talking about this certification and several other things. So I'm not going to like keep like you more because we are like 1 hour 30 minutes. So I think from next week we shall be making our sessions be 1 hour 30 minutes so that we can be able to have some time. So we also have some tutorials on YouTube. So if you're a beginner and you feel that these things are kind of hard, so there's uh, YouTube videos. So this way, when I started when learning C sharp, I just found some things kind of hard for me to understand. So I had to go to YouTube. So there are some advocates from Microsoft. They were able to do a series of like C sharp. It's like 10 minutes video for each, and we have like a couple of like I think 20 of them. You see, it's available in the .NET uh, channel, and we have so many things that you can be able to see. And this is C Sharp Part 1. So we have C Sharp series. You can be able to also access it through YouTube. So I'm going to share all these resources, and I'm very hopeful that with this journey that we've started, we are going to like end the journey of learning C Sharp with all of us having gotten a certification. So it's wise for you to get a certification, especially if you are it's wise for you to get a certification, especially if you are aspiring to become a developer or apply for some jobs. So at this point, it's a time whereby you can ask for questions if you have any. So this is the time for you. Questions, suggestions, or something that you feel that you will wish that it should be addressed, or how you can be able to cover the C#.NET. So we have Kamau, you can speak.
Hi, how are you, Brian?
Yes, I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for taking us through maybe a little bit of a crash course for the beginner.
Uh-huh.
I think I started my
Uh-huh.
journey in C Sharp last week. Probably I've gone
Mhm.
through the series that you've been talking about, the one on .NET
Mhm.
by the two instructors from
Uh-huh.
Microsoft, all of the videos from
Okay.
video 1 to video 20, and I think that's a great place to start for everyone. I've started my certification also on Free Code Camp. I'm looking maybe to
Mhm.
finish it up in the next 2 weeks.
Nice, nice.
And I think this meeting, it's really timely because given
Uh-huh.
that I started my journey last week, and now you surprisingly had to call a meeting for maybe getting started with C sharp. It's really important.
Mhm.
So anything that I think I'll be able to share also with the team. A quick one. Where will you send the details, the resources, including the WhatsApp group link?
Okay.
Or
We have
okay.
so we okay, we have the WhatsApp group, and I think I've shared the QR code over here. So if you wanna join us on the group, you can scan the code, and you can be able to attend. And because also you are the one who like you are ahead of time, you kind of like have some love for C sharp. Even me just started learning C sharp some 2 weeks ago. Just that C sharp is one the certification I've been able to do it like it was on April, I guess. So I did the certification, and I wasn't much interested in like doing more of C sharp, and then just proceeded with my other things. But while opening the new semester, I just started like, okay, I want to write some things on C sharp, then get to learn some building of web APIs. And the way that I could be able to learn this is by like hosting a session. And this is a session that is open for all of us. So let's say if you know certain topic very well, and you would like to like give some contribution into it. So you can request for like a session, let's say next week. So because from whatever you are planning to have, you see next week we have to touch on types in the type system in C sharp. So you can say like, okay, you know something on this and you want to touch on it. So you can just create some slides, some content, just come over the call, then we learn together. So it's all about motivating ourselves to learn something. And at the end of it all, we are going to gain it all. So I think we are on the right path.
Thank you so much. Can you go back to that slide that had the QR code? I failed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Bernard, your hand is up. So your chance to speak is.
Hi, Brian.
Yes, hello, Bernard.
Fine. Thanks for the presentation.
Mm. Welcome.
Just emphasizing on what Kama was said.
Mhm.
Actually, it's like a coincidence because even I had started the series. It's I guess 1 week,
Mhm.
and with the notes like from the Microsoft, just
Mhm.
reading sometimes it may be hard, but I guess with this series of the videos that you've shown and the practicals,
Mhm.
I guess it will be more easier to understand because when we practice like hands-on skills and then refer to the notes and other materials, I guess that will be good. I hope this journey will end well and we shall master some skills for the C sharp.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to be able to learn several things, and especially you see, I find that a team of people who are or audience that are much into learning C sharp. So it's kind of a coincidence, and I am very very certain that in the course of time we're going to dive more, and at the end of it all, we're going to achieve so many things. Thank you so much, Bernard, for your comments. Let's keep learning. Whenever you require a session, let me know. We can all plan from the WhatsApp group. So let's be a thing that we want to teach ourselves. So it's not a one-man show that I'm always going to be the one. So it's an initiative to like take us through C sharp. Let's know C sharp. Let's know .NET. And after then, when we want to learn some new technology, you can like uncover it. We want to learn something new, we can learn as a whole. And that's a cool agenda. So if anyone has a comment or how you can be able to have these sessions, please, it's time you can reach out on the chat. We are past time, and I think people maybe have some other activities to do. Right, that means that we no longer have any other question. So if you have any other question, please, you can be able to scan the QR code. You'll be able to access the group, and from there we can be able to communicate, have more discussions on how we can make this series a better one. So the series can run for up to 2 months, especially when we are beginning with the foundations, and then later on we might find some advanced topics. So the advanced topics is one that can make us delay on them because we want to do some emphasis on them, and it will be great that we spend time on those concepts. Um, Having no other question, I'm ending the session, and I'll be able to share the recording and the resources as well. Thank you so much, and thank you for attending the call. Bye bye.